Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tiffany.
And Tiffany, today we're talking about food.
Yes.
I like food. You like food. Everyone likes food. Some people like food more than other people. Some people like sweet food, and some people like savory food. Right. When we use that word savory, S-A-V-O-R-Y, usually we're talking kind of salty, meaty things, right? So if you like French fries more than you like chocolate, then you might say, I like savory food more than I like sweet food. But today, it's all about the sweet because we're enjoying sweet desserts at新丁粄Festival. I've never heard of this festival.
Me too.
It's new for me. Well, how about you? Do you like desserts? Are you a sweet or a savory person?
I'm actually more of a savory person now.
Me too.
I used to love eating chocolate, eating sweets when I was younger, but now
not so much.
I know that it's going to be very difficult for me to lose weight.
True.
I try to cut down on sugar.
Okay.
I don't add sugar to my coffee now.
But if you're having a sugar need, if you need a sugar rush and you want to have a sweet dessert in a restaurant, say, for a special meal, what would you have? What would be one of your
my favorite
fancy desserts? Or
apple
special
pie.
No.
Apple pie.
You didn't just say that.
Yeah.
With
cream.
Ice cream.
I like fresh cream or ice cream.
I think I've met the love of my life. Apple pie. I love apple pie too. It's hard to find good apple pie in Taipei.
I agree.
A lot of places, they put too much sugar in it. You know, it's got to have that apple flavor too. That's one of my favorites, definitely. But, of course, if you're in the新丁粄Festival, I bet you there's not a lot of apple pie. Yeah. So what we'll be talking about today are more traditional Taiwanese desserts. But if you've got a sweet tooth, you're sure to be satisfied. So come back and join us for the article.
Reading. Enjoying sweet desserts at新丁粄Festival. Visitors line up in Dongshi District, Taichung, to stare at some of the biggest cakes they've ever seen. They're called Sin Ding Ban, or New Man's Cake, and they are glutinous rice cakes in the shape of turtle shells. In fact, these over-the-top cakes have a more humble beginning. During the Qing dynasty, when most people in Taiwan were engaged in agriculture, life was hard for Hakka farmers. They needed as many men as possible to work on the farms. Thus, they prayed to Bogong, the earth god, for baby boys. If they had a boy, they celebrated by giving away the sweet Sin Ding Ban desserts. Later, Hakka people also made Sin Ding Ban for the Lantern Festival in the first month of the lunar calendar. Hakka people showed their respect to Bogong during this festival. They also held competitions to see who could make the biggest Sin Ding Ban. As times have changed, now there are also Taoban or peach cakes for baby girls. If you're ever in Taichung during the Lantern Festival, be sure to try some of these delicious cakes.
All right, so the article kicks off with visitors line up in Dongshi District, Taichung, to stare at some of the biggest cakes they've ever seen. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. So this is down in Taichung in central Taiwan, the Dongshi District. I hope I'm saying that right. And people are lining up to stare at huge cakes, very big cakes. When you're lining up, basically you make a line. You make a row. The first person who gets there is the first person in line, and everyone sort of stands behind that person to make a long snake, a long tail of people. People line up when they're getting on buses. Hopefully. They line up when they're at the MRT or when they're waiting to buy things in a busy store. This stops people from pushing to the front, from arguing, from getting in fights. If everyone lines up, up and is just patient and polite, it's easier for everyone. And we also talked about this word district, the Dongshi district. A district is a smaller area inside a big place like a town or a city. For example, here in Taipei, we have the Ximending district. We have the Da'an district. We have the Wanhua district.
Shilin district.
The Shilin district. That's
Gotta
right.
Represent.
These are different areas. It might still be many thousands of people who live there, but they're a little bit different than different other districts of the same place. It's all part of the city, but the city has its own little districts or special areas.
Next, the article says they're called 新丁粄 or new man's cake. So like a literal translation, it's called a new man's cake. And they are glutinous rice cakes in the shape of tortoise shells. Okay? When we're talking about glutinous rice, it means that this rice is like sticky. So if you think about mochi, okay, it's like the texture of mochi. So basically this cake is not the typical kind of cake that we're thinking about. It's actually made out of sticky rice or mochi-style kind of rice.
Interesting. Okay, so it's quite chewy.
Yeah.
Might get stuck to your fingers, but still very, very tasty. And we also have this phrase, in the shape of. Okay, if we talk about something being in the shape of something, that means it has the same form. It kind of looks the same from all sides. It might appear to be, or it might look like something, but it's not actually that. Often, when we're baking things, like making a cake, for example, you might make a cake for a little boy's birthday and make the cake in the shape of a racing car or a spaceship or something he really likes. Obviously, it's a cake. It's made out of sugar and eggs and things like that. But it has the form of, it has the shape of something like a racing car or a spaceship. Off the coast of Ilan, right, there's an island that people think is in the shape of a turtle.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Turtle Island because it sort of looks like a turtle. Obviously, it's an island, it's a rock, but it still has the shape of, or it's in the shape of a turtle. In fact, the article continues, these over-the-top cakes have a more humble beginning. So they might look really fancy and special now. They might look a little over-the-top now, but they actually have humble or more simple beginnings. Over-the-top is our shortcut for you. Let's find out more about that.
Shortcut for you.
Woof. Is it warm in here?
Yeah, well, look how much you have on.
I only have 4 jackets on today. It's cold outside, okay?
It's a little over the top, don't you think?
Over the top? No, they were under this top. Look!
If something is over the top, it goes beyond what is normal.
Oh, I see. Over the top is 夸张的,过头的.
Exactly. I know it's cold outside, but this is over the top.
It is starting to get warm in here.
Maybe take off the scarf for starters.
That's true.
And a jacket or two.
Hey now, wait up. Let's not get over the top, okay?
And there we have over the top. And yes, let's talk about this word humble. We talked about the humble beginnings of the Xinding Ban cakes.
And humble here is spelled H-U-M-B-L-E. It's an adjective and it means you're not very proud. You don't think that you're better than others. So like Mike said, it means that you have very kind of like a simple mindset. You don't think that you're better than anyone. You don't think you are very proud of who you are. So it just means that you're very, you're not better than other people. All right, so next we can see an example sentence. We can say, although Ang Lee is a famous Hollywood director, he's still very humble and helps other people.
Yeah, it's good for him. He's a nice guy. And yeah, when we talk about humble beginnings, we talk about sort of simple beginnings, often for something that's kind of fancy and special and maybe even expensive now. But if it started off in a very simple, ordinary way, we would talk about the humble beginning. beginnings. You know, for example, McDonald's now has thousands of restaurants around the world, but its humble beginnings were at one little diner, one little hamburger place in California back in the 1940s or something. And from there, they grew to be something very big, but they started off simple and small. For example, back in the article, we could say, during the Qing dynasty, when most people in Taiwan were engaged in agriculture, life was hard for Hakka farmers. Oh, there you go. Some humble beginnings. Farming with the Hakka people back in the Qing dynasty. So that's obviously a long time ago, more than 100 years ago. And life in Taiwan was pretty humble, was pretty simple back then. None of the big cities and the high-speed trains we had now. Most people in Taiwan were engaged in agriculture, okay? And yeah, this, as I mentioned, is during the Qing dynasty. Dynasties are basically periods of one family ruling a country, ruling a land. So if it's a dynasty, the parents have children, the children become the king or the queen, and that passes through their family until something happens. Maybe there's a war and another family takes over, or maybe the family just dies out because no one has children or something like that. So obviously you guys know Chinese history, at least a little bit. The Ming dynasty, the Qing dynasty, the Wu dynasty, the Han dynasty. These are all long periods, maybe hundreds of years, but when one family group sort of held on to power in China and in other parts of the world, in other countries as well. And it said people back then were engaged in agriculture. To engage in something is basically to do it, to take part, to take on an activity. If you're engaged in studying right now, you're studying. That's what you are doing. All right. If you're very engaged this afternoon, you'll be very, very busy this afternoon doing many things. For example, I couldn't talk to my boss. He was engaged in another meeting. He was taking part in another meeting. And they were engaged in agriculture back then.
Right. Agriculture is basically the practice of farming. It's more scientific as well because you have to know, for example, maybe which soil is the best for the vegetable, or what kind of vegetables or crops you can grow out this time. So it's more about the practice and the science of farming. So a lot of people back then, basically, their lives revolved around farming, so they were very knowledgeable about it. For example, we can also say the old house was turned into an area for agriculture. So that means that they used the place, it was an old house, but they managed to turn it around into something good for other people.
That's right, for the growing of food, for farming. The article continues and says they needed as many men as possible to work on the farms. Yeah, 100 or so years ago, they didn't have the machines that we have today. A lot of farm work was done by human muscle power or by animal muscle power. So obviously, the more people you had working, the faster the work could get done.
Right. Next, the article says, thus, they prayed to Bo-gong, the earth god, for baby boys. So because people believe that, okay, we need to farm, it's a lot of physical labor, it's a lot of work. So they pray to have more boys so they can help with the farming and help do work that requires a lot more manual labor.
Interesting. And if they had a boy, they celebrated by giving away the sweet Shindingban desserts. So there you go. So boys were what most people wanted. The boys could work on the farm and things like that, I guess. And so they would celebrate if someone had a boy by giving away some desserts, some treats to their friends and neighbors and things like that, just as a way of celebrating and sharing their happiness over having a boy. To celebrate is basically to have a party, all right? When you're having fun, when you're enjoying something, because it's a special kind of day, a special kind of event, you will celebrate. Things we commonly celebrate include birthdays, holidays like Chinese New Year. You celebrate a wedding. You'd celebrate when you graduate from high school or college or something like that. One of those really special days, one of those really happy, memorable days, you will get together with your friends and family and you will celebrate. For example, we could say people celebrated when their team won the national championship. I'm sure the fans were celebrating all night long. And yes,
Definitely.
we're giving away things. This phrase to give away just means to give something to someone for free. You're not selling it to them. You're basically just saying, I don't want this, or do you want this? You do? Here, take it. You can give away old things that you might not use anymore, or you give away presents and things like that when you want to make other people happy.
Next in the article, it says, later, Hakka people also made Xingdingban for the Lantern Festival in the first month of the lunar calendar. Okay, so this thing became more of, it wasn't just used for one event, it was used for many other events as well, like the Lantern Festival. Now, we see the word here, lunar. Lunar means something that is related to the moon, and a lot of Asian and Chinese culture, we follow the lunar calendar. For example, why do we have Chinese New Year? It's because we follow the lunar calendar. Okay, so lunar is something that's related to the moon, so the moon cycle basically. We also sometimes hear the word solar. So solar means something that is related to the sun.
Interesting. Okay. And it says the Hakka people showed their respect to Bogong during this festival. So, of course, as a farmer, you'd want to show your respect to the earth god, the god that is in charge of making things grow. To show respect is basically to show that you are honoring someone, that you look up to them, you admire them, you think they are good, special, wonderful, or great in some kind of way. And you want to show other people that you are honoring this person. You would respect your parents by speaking to them politely. You would respect your God, maybe, if you believe in God, by going to church and praying and doing good things and that kind of thing. When you're rude to someone, when you call them names or say bad words to them, you are showing that you don't respect that person. It's not nice to respect others because, of course, we want to be respected ourselves. So if people act in a respectful, to use the adjective, if they act in a respectful way towards you, you should do the same for them. For example, I can't respect that man because he hits his dog. Oh, I don't respect people who hit
Me too.
animals. That's
I don't
not
respect
nice.
people who abuse animals.
No way.
No. Okay, so next in the article, it says, they also held competitions to see who can make the biggest Xingdingban.
Whoa, the biggest cake.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it became like a very simple festival, very simple holiday or occasion. But now they kind of upgrade the occasion and they have competitions. Okay, competition is spelled C-O-M-P-E-T-I-T-I-O-N. It's a noun and it means it's an event or a contest that people hold or take part in to see who is the best. So, for example, we have many different kinds of competitions. We have sports competitions. You can even have a beauty competition. You can even have dog competitions.
My favorite, an English spelling competition.
Ooh, you can also call that a spelling bee too.
That's right.
So, for example, there's many different types of competitions that you can take part in, and it's always just to see maybe who is the best at doing something. For example, we can say Michael Phelps won more than 28 gold medals in many different swimming competitions.
Wow.
He's one of the best.
Good for
best
him.
Of the best.
He was very good at winning competitions, wasn't he? All right, let's get back to the article. Of course, many things have changed since the Qing dynasty when some of these traditions began. And as the article says, as times have changed, or as time has gone by, as history has changed, now there are also taoban, or peach cakes for baby girls. That's right. It's not just about
the girls.
having boys anymore. That's right. Modern parents, of course, most of them would not really care if they have a boy or a girl. They just want to have a healthy baby. So if you have a baby girl, that's great too. Congratulations. Give her a taoban or a peach cake. I think the peach cakes sound more delicious.
Yeah,
personally.
it sounds really good.
Anyways, but that's just me. So if you're ever in Taichung, what should we do?
If you're ever in Taichung during the Lantern Festival, be sure to try some of these delicious cakes.
All right, I will. I think I'm going to head down there soon. I don't have any babies yet, but I guess I can just hang around the hospital and meet people who had babies.
And then just eat their cakes.
And then follow them home and probably get asked a lot of questions by the police. No, there's got to be a better way to get these cakes, but I'm definitely going to head to Taichung. But before that, we have our chat question. We'll be back to talk about that.
For You Chat.
All right, our chat question is, okay, great. What is your favorite kind of dessert and why? Well, earlier, Tiffany and I had a meeting of the minds or a big agreement over apple pie.
Yes.
With ice cream.
Yes.
Right? Some vanilla ice cream, that's the white. You would call that apple pie à la mode.
Ooh, so fancy.
It's so fancy. It's a French term, and it just means with ice cream. What other, if they don't have apple pie, is there some other, I know. We can just go to another restaurant. But let's say we don't have a choice and there's no apple pie on the menu. What else would you look for if you were in the mood for something sweet?
Creme brulee.
Creme brulee? Oh, that's a good one. Okay,
I
kind of
love
French cream and some egg, right? Egg and cream kind of
And then
beat
they have
together.
like a nice kind of glaze,
that's
sugary
good.
glaze on top. Oh, it's amazing.
That is good. They kind of burn the top of it so it's a little crunchy, a little eggy, a little sweet. It's kind of like one of those Portuguese...
Oh, like
the danta or whatever, right? The
a
Portuguese. It's kind of like that. A little bit different, but similar. Same kind of area. That's a good one. What about you guys? What's your favorite kind of dessert? Of course, we know it must be apple pie because that's the best dessert ever. But what's your second favorite dessert then? Have a chat about that. And we'll see you back here sometime in the near future. Until then, take care. Don't eat too many cakes. Have fun. And we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Enjoying sweet desserts at新丁粄Festival. Visitors line up in Dongshi District, Taichung, to stare at some of the biggest cakes they've ever seen. They're called Sin Ding Ban, or New Man's Cake, and they are glutinous rice cakes in the shape of turtle shells. In fact, these over-the-top cakes have a more humble beginning. During the Qing dynasty, when most people in Taiwan were engaged in agriculture, life was hard for Hakka farmers. They needed as many men as possible to work on the farms. Thus, they prayed to Bogong, the earth god, for baby boys. If they had a boy, they celebrated by giving away the sweet Singdingban desserts. Later, Hakka people also made Sindingban for the Lantern Festival in the first month of the lunar calendar. Hakka people showed their respect to Bogong during this festival. They also held competitions to see who could make the biggest Singdingban. As times have changed, now there are also Taoban or peach cakes for baby girls. If you're ever in Taichung during the Lantern Festival, be sure to try some of these delicious cakes.
Vocabulary Review.
Humble. We don't have much money, so we live in a humble home. It's nothing special. Engage. Many people in this town are engaged in car making, as there is a car factory here. Agriculture. Before humans had agriculture, people had to hunt for their food. Celebrate. Henry got promoted, so he celebrated by taking his wife and children out for dinner. Respect. The students show their respect to the teacher by bowing at the start and end of each class. Competition. Our school will hold an English singing competition at the end of the year.